I peace out from my online platform, especially during that first trimester. I stay away from the news. I watch TV. I read fiction books. I listen to happy music. I listen to comedy. And I spend a lot of time out in the sun and with friends and family. It's like a great place to be honest. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and I run the blog called Mrs. Midwest. Baby bump is here. It's accounted for. My husband, my dear wonderful husband, is watching Bodhi right now. So we have a chunk of time to go through all things pregnancy related. So with my first pregnancy, I did not make one of these kind of videos because I was a pregnant amateur. I had never been pregnant before. I had never birthed a child. I didn't know if the things I was doing was going to pay off. I didn't know if the things I was doing, if I would even want to do those in future pregnancies. But your girl is pregnant again. And I was pregnant so recently that a lot of this is really fresh in my mind. I have noticed a lot of you asking for my opinions about different pregnancy and birth related topics like what do I eat? Where do I buy clothes? What about a birth plan? So today I'm just going to go through a bunch of different topics like what I eat, how we manage finances, what I wear when I'm pregnant, how I research, how I come to my medical decisions, how we chose a name, all of that good stuff. But before we dive in, I do want to add a little disclaimer. I am not a crunchy hippie mama. You guys are probably already well aware of that if you've ever watched my vlogs here on YouTube, but I just think it's an important reminder. I know that I have a huge audience crossover from other kind of crunchy, traditional living YouTubers, many of whom I love and I watch myself, and I'm actually friends in real life with many of them. However, I myself am not what you would consider a crunchy, all-natural mama. That's not my thing. So if you're looking for that type of pregnancy content, I'm not your girl, but I do hope you stick around because when I was pregnant, especially with my first baby, I took advice and ideas from all sorts of different women, you know, from the hippiest of hippies to the glamorous elective C-section mama, like, and everything in between. I think wisdom can be gathered from completely different sources so that we can create a plan that matches us. I'm not seeking to influence any of you today towards what I did when I was giving birth or pregnant, but I do know a lot of you are really curious about this stuff and I'm ready to talk about it. So let's start at the very beginning. How did we know that we were ready to try? This is a question so many couples encounter, especially a couple years after they get married. You know, maybe wifey wants to start trying, hubby's not quite ready, or sometimes it's the other way around. I have so many girlfriends where their husbands wanted to be dads 5 years ago and they're just not quite there yet. So how did we know it was time for us? Basically what kind of happened is whenever we'd have like a month where I thought, oh, maybe I'm pregnant, I would take a test. And I started to notice that I would get disappointed when it was negative. And that's kind of when I realized, oh, I think I want a baby. And then I realized a lot of my friends were having babies. A lot of the people I followed online were having babies. And I was just way more interested in that side of life. And also I started to really desire having something outside of my online life. And I also wanted to start trying when we were younger because my maternal side of the family has a ton of history of miscarriage, even a stillbirth, and I just wasn't sure how complicated or uncomplicated having a baby would be. You know, I kind of felt like I wanted to buffer some time in there in case it was really complicated. So what I ended up doing, this is a question a lot of women have as well, you know, how do I tell my husband I want to have a baby? So on my 23rd birthday, I said to my husband, by the time I turn 24, so 1 year from now, I hope that I am pregnant. I would really like to be pregnant. And he was like, whoa, okay, you know, and the cool thing was it wasn't like, let's start trying right now, give me a baby right now, but it kind of like gave him some time to think about things. And then within a few months of that, we were already trying, you know. We didn't wait till I was at my 24th birthday. It didn't happen until after I turned 24, but we started trying shortly after I brought it up like that. So I only told him one time. I told him on my birthday, and then I just let it be. And you know, maybe we would talk about our friends that had gotten pregnant, or I'd share a cute baby video, but I didn't really nag or bring it up a lot. It was just kind of like, you know, I told him and now he knows. And then a few months later we started trying. So I would really encourage you to don't nag if you can avoid it. You know, just kind of plant the seeds, let your husband know what you desire and see where it goes. So the next part of getting pregnant is getting pregnant. So we started trying, but I'd come off birth control shortly after that 23rd birthday, or right around then. And it had really messed up my hormones. It took 9 months for my period to return to normal. It was like a 48-day period for a while, like cycle. It was so messed up. So after that, it returned to normal. And then it took another 4 or 5 months until I was finally ovulating. And so actually the first month I ovulated after coming off of birth control, we got pregnant with Bodhi. And we used ovulation strips. I've mentioned this in the past. If you're trying to get pregnant, I highly recommend these. It's like $16 for a giant pack of them. So my husband ordered these ovulation strips for me so we could at least like figure out when was the best time, not just like on an app, which is what I'd been using before. So we used the strips. It said I was ovulating at a time when the app said I wasn't, so I was so glad I got them. And the way I told my husband, I know a lot of people are curious about this, it was not glamorous. We had used the strips that month, and then I was a couple days late on my period, and I was getting really tired really easily. And so I had just gotten back from a trip that morning, and the first thing I did when I came into the house was take a test, and it was positive. And so I just like went over to him and I told him, and he wanted me to take more tests, but I was just like, no, like be excited, you know, we're pregnant. And he wanted to like confirm it a few more times. And that's also kind of how it happened with my second pregnancy. You can watch my video on that to hear the little story. Which ties into my next thing, which is how we found out the gender. Both times it was just from the nurse over the phone at home. We chose not to have a gender reveal because that's not really us, and we wanted it to be private. My husband, he gets a little uncomfortable on camera. If you've watched my vlogs, you'll know it's not his favorite thing to be on camera, and I didn't want anything spoiling his reaction. I wanted to see his reaction face to face with no other stress in the background. The first time though, I would kind of recommend this. This was fun. The first time we found out Bodhi was a boy, the nurse told me, and then I went over into the next room and I told Graham, so he got to hear it from me. And then the second time we put her on speakerphone, and my cousin was in the room, and we were all just like waiting with bated breath. We wanted definitely our second baby. We cared more about the gender with this pregnancy just because Bodhi's a boy, and we thought it would be so cool if I could have a second boy because they're going to be so close in age. We would have loved a girl as well, but I can't lie, we were kind of hoping for a boy just because of the close age difference. And the reason we find out the gender is because I'm a huge planner and prepper, and I really wanted to know the gender of the baby so that I could make a really beautiful nursery. So I wanted to know the gender beforehand so I could kind of create like a baby stockpile, and also so I could make my baby registry more specific. And it didn't mean I wanted everything to come in blue, but it did mean I didn't get everything gray and yellow and light green. I wanted some more like boy specific colored things. I know so many people just don't even care about the nursery. I think that's really cool. They just keep the baby in the room with them for months and months. That's not who I am. Maybe some of you can relate with me. I love to decorate. It's a way that I can express my creativity and show love to my family. And what better way than to nest and just create a beautiful nursery for my son, my first son that I had waited so long for, you know? So So how we picked the name, actually, I don't know if I ever mentioned for Bodhi, but the way we picked the name was we were watching a skiing video. They make these extreme sports videos online, and we were watching it and we were discussing Bodhi Miller. He's a really famous skier, and we realized we really liked the name Bodhi. We weren't going to name our child after Bodhi Miller, but we just really liked the name. We hadn't heard it elsewhere. And that was a few years before we even had Bodhi. Hey, if we ever have a boy, let's name him that. Yeah, we also decided to lengthen it to Bowden because I wanted something a little more formal in case he didn't want to just be like Bodhi. You know, maybe his personality would be more serious, or when he was an adult, maybe he wouldn't want like a cutesy name. And so that was why we lengthened it to Bowden. And I also really love the meaning of Bowden. And then for the second baby, it was really weird. I was already pregnant, but I didn't know it. And I had, for some reason, gotten really fixated on when we have more kids, what are we going to name them? I don't know why. And so I had been going through boy names because we have an idea if we have a girl what we would name her someday, but we didn't have another boy name. And so I made a huge list after reading like the top 1,000 names or whatever from 2021. I made a huge list of all the ones I liked. I think there was only about 20 on there. And then I read them out to my husband, and then he really liked one of them, and so did I. And then we were just like, that's it. That'll be our next son's name. And then shock and awe a month later when we found out we were pregnant, and then a month after that when we found out we were pregnant with another boy. All right, pivoting though. What I eat when I'm pregnant. This has come up so many times. It's what inspired me to sit down and make this video. A lot of you want to know, how do I maintain my weight? Do I calorie count? Do I not calorie count? What type of food do I eat? Do I get nausea? All of those questions. So I managed my food a little better with Bodhi, partially because I had a lot of nausea, so I wasn't overeating by any stretch of the imagination. But with this baby, I've been more concerned about low birth weight because with subchorionic hematomas, which I have, and with a short interval pregnancy, which 2 pregnancies close together, there's a risk of low birth weight. And one of the ways to stave off low birth weight is to make sure you're eating a lot, that you are gaining weight. And so with this pregnancy, I've been more relaxed with gaining weight, especially too because I wasn't allowed to really exercise at all for almost 2 months, and I've had no nausea because this pregnancy's been so smooth. Other than the hematoma, it's been so smooth. And so I just was eating a lot for a while. I was gaining a little bit too much weight too quickly. So recently I peeled back a little bit, but I always eat till I'm full. But the way I do that is by asking myself, am I hungry enough right now to eat baby carrots or an apple? And if the answer is no, then I'm probably just craving an extra cookie for no reason and I don't eat it. But if I am, then I know I am hungry, and then I try to fill up on full nutritious foods. I made a video a long time ago about traditionalism and how I live out traditional practices, and one of those areas is food, and that definitely, I think, helped get me back on a normal period and ovulating correctly. I think it helped so much with my pregnancy with Bodhi. I remember the doctors were commenting how amazing my blood work was. My platelet count was so high. I recovered really fast after birth. The doctor this time around was kind of shocked at how good my blood work was going into this pregnancy, considering I was just pregnant. And I do think a lot of this is due to nutrition. And so, even my nails are in incredible shape. My hair is thicker than it's ever been. And I'm pregnant and just gave birth. I should be like nutrient depleted, but I'm not. And I think that's because I really focus on whole foods and protein, a lot of protein. So I got a lot of paperwork from my OBGYN practice going into pregnancy, what they recommend for food. And one of the things is drinking whole milk as much as you can. So I do drink whole milk every day, vitamin D, organic whole milk. I drink it every day, either in like some sort of decaf latte, or I'll have it with my breakfast, or I'll make sure I put a lot of it in my scrambled eggs. I just make sure I have it every single day because it is so good for you. It's so good for baby, that full fat, so good for baby. And I also eat fresh eggs every day. You guys know we have chickens. I am not a pregnant woman who is like, gotta get my fruits and veggies in. No. Yeah, I'll eat my fruits and veggies, but I'm like a pregnant woman where it's, I gotta get my meat, cheese, and milk in, you know, and my eggs. I gotta get all of that because I believe it really helps you be strong throughout pregnancy. So I also eat a lot of red meat and fish when I'm pregnant. There is a list of fish you are not supposed to eat, and I avoid those, but I do eat fish when I'm pregnant. And red meat, so I try to eat red meat multiple times a week. The price of meat right now is so expensive and inflated. It's horrific, but I do try to eat steak, eat a lot of butter. And I know this might sound crazy because you're thinking, oh, butter and milk and red meat, are you crazy? That's such a hearty diet. But you know, when you're pregnant, you need a hearty diet. You need to feel strong yourself, but you are also growing another human out of tissue and blood and meat, you know. That's like essentially what the human body is. And when you duplicate the human body, you need that stuff. So that's what I eat. As far as supplements, I take my prenatal, I take any medications the doctor recommends that I need at the time. And I also always take my liver supplements. I've talked about this on my blog. It's desiccated liver tablets. And it's really great because I don't like organ meats just cooked and fed to me. I did not grow up on them, so I just don't have a palate for it. So liver tablets are an amazing alternative to that because you don't have to taste the liver. So I take my liver tablets every day. I started doing this 9 months after I went off birth control, and the month I started them, that was when my cycle went back to normal. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but it was like the one thing I changed when my cycle went back to normal was my diet. So when I ended up getting pregnant, I was like, I'm sticking to this diet, like it's working for me. And it did make me gain a little bit more weight back, but I didn't care because I just feel so healthy. But a lot of it is just the concept of our ancestors ate the whole animal, and those organs were the most nutritious. That's where a lot of minerals are and a lot of nutrients that we just can't get from other foods. And so that's why I take liver tablets. I do avoid caffeine and alcohol the whole time. I know some pregnant women will have like a glass of wine. I don't do that at all. And I totally avoid caffeine as well. So if I want a latte, it has to be decaf. And I also avoid seed oils, vegetable oil. I don't eat that. And I also avoid a lot of soy and high estrogen products and anything that has like a really high sugar volume in it, or overly processed foods. You know, I'm not here cramming Doritos down my face just because I feel like it, even though Doritos sound amazing right now. I don't give into pregnancy cravings in that way. Always try to eat something really nutrient dense because it ultimately makes you feel better, especially when you're pregnant, because when you're eating a lot of processed foods and you're pregnant, you just feel disgusting. And I also just don't want to feel gross postpartum. And with my last pregnancy, it really worked. I really only gained weight mostly in my belly. And so having these 2 pregnancies on top of each other, it's nice because I don't feel like I have this mountain of weight to lose after both of them. Instead, I feel like I gained what I needed to with my first pregnancy. I lost what I needed to, and now I'm back on the gaining. And I'm probably heavier than I was with Bodhi a year ago. But like I said, it's partially because I was gaining weight out of concern for low birth weight. But now that everything's fine, we're back to more of a normal diet. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is what I buy, like what I buy for the baby. I know that everyone approaches this differently, and you guys know I'm a huge frugal person, a thrifter, and all of that. So I thought you'd be curious about how I approach buying things for baby. And it is not by thrifting everything or by going secondhand with everything. I did not do that with Bodhi, and I'm not doing that with this baby. Baby items get so much use out of them. It's kind of rare to find secondhand baby stuff that's in good condition. Now you can, especially if you're on Facebook Marketplace or if you live in a city where there's just everyone within your 10-mile radius. There's just so many more people to choose from and buy from. But if you're like me, you live more in the country, you don't have access to all of that, buying secondhand or from Facebook Marketplace isn't always the best option. So I decided, Bodhi's my first baby, let's buy brand new, fresh stuff and then use it for our other kids. And that turned out to be the best decision ever, especially as we are gearing up for baby number 2. We have so much stuff that Bodhi used, but it's still in good condition because it was only him who used it. I did thrift some stuff. I thrifted his changing table. I thrifted a bunch of his clothing and the decorations for his room. But as far as, you know, things that were going to get used a lot, like a baby swing or his mattress or his swaddles, high use items, I wanted to buy those brand new, and I'm really glad I did. So I made a giant list on Amazon. After we got about 12 weeks with Bodhi, you know, things looked good. I made a giant list on Amazon and I added everything to it that I thought we needed. And I read so many blogs about what I wish I bought when I was pregnant, 10 things I wish I purchased before I brought my baby home, you know, just a lot of those kind of blogs, as well as your ultimate guide and checklist to everything you need for baby. And Amazon baby registry is really nice because they give you categories and then things to check off within each category to make sure you're getting everything you need. Now, they kind of do overkill. You don't need absolutely everything on the list, but there's things on there that you might not think of. And so I definitely encourage you to get organized with some sort of ultimate checklist. So if you look up online, just ultimate baby gear checklist, you'll find so many different blog posts. And I did a lot of research. I cannot tell you how many Amazon reviews I read when I was pregnant with Bodhi. I spent so much time reading and reviewing and reading on websites, especially for the big purchase items. And it was so worth it because I have not been unhappy with anything we've purchased other than the Merlin sleep suit, but that's only because he doesn't like it. So I would say with some purchases, especially things that are more specific to what your baby's going to need as they're transitioning into being older, maybe hold off. Like, I wish that we hadn't gotten the Merlin sleep suit before we had Bodhi, because once we had him, we realized, oh, this baby loves being swaddled. And then once he's done swaddling, he's going to sleep on his belly. Merlin sleep suit, we just never had a need for it. So some stuff you can hold off on, and it might be wise to, but I also think there's nothing wrong with buying a lot beforehand, because you know what was so nice? It was so nice being postpartum and having everything I could have ever needed or wanted already in his closet. I didn't have to spend time on Amazon when I was exhausted and wanted to nap. I didn't have to research baby gear when I already had my baby. I already had the stuff. We were already squared away. It was great. Furniture wise, always think ahead. So with this new baby, I'm buying a dresser that's part of the same furniture family as Bodhi's dresser. In the event that they end up sharing a room someday, their furniture will match. And I'm also buying the same glider so that when they don't need the gliders in their rooms anymore, we have a matching set that we can put somewhere in the house. And so it's important when you're buying big pieces of furniture, think ahead. Pieces of furniture that don't just scream nursery. I would also recommend accept gifts, accept the showers. Like, let people buy you stuff at all possible. Have your hubby, you know, have his friends throw a diaper party for him. It is so helpful to have your friends help you out with that first baby. It is expensive having your first baby, but you can save a lot of money and you can get a lot of support from family and friends by having baby showers. I had 3 small baby showers. We were right in the middle of pandemic restrictions when I was pregnant with Bodhi, but I didn't want that to mean I couldn't have a baby shower. So we had 3 smaller ones and it really worked out amazing. And then after I had Bodhi, our church put on a diaper and baby book party for me and another girl who had given birth. And so we got so many diapers, so many books. We just ran out of diapers last month. Let people buy you stuff. Let them help you out. If they ask if they can buy a gift for the baby, just say, yes, this is our registry. That's another reason I definitely recommend having a registry, is because people will sometimes buy just weird stuff for babies that they like or they have a memory with or they think works that you just have no interest in, or it doesn't match your parenting style. And so having a registry is a great way to guide people into the stuff that you need and you want for your baby. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think registries are really wonderful ways people can bless each other. I love buying off of people's registries. It's an amazing way to really have help when you start out with, you know, like I said, having a baby is expensive, which kind of guides me into the topic of finances in general. So when I got pregnant with Bodhi, I created that Amazon list and then I added it all to my shopping cart and I gave my husband the figure and I was like, okay, this is how much money we are going to need to set aside for this baby. And he was like, okay. And that was 7-8 months before he was even born. So it gave us so much time to stretch out those purchases. And by the time we actually had the baby, we had also had the baby showers and so much help, even from you guys buying off my registry. We were not left financially destitute, which was amazing. But in the event that we would have had to buy everything, no gifts, we could have done it because we had planned ahead. So I definitely recommend planning ahead. And just remembering too, it's a huge expense when you have a baby. It feels so overwhelming, but you only have to make a lot of these purchases one time. There's some things you're gonna have to buy multiple of, especially if you're like me and you have your babies super close together. You're gonna need 2 cribs, but it's not always like that. And so don't let the finances scare you. Plan ahead, budget. So now I want to talk about what I read about and researched when I was pregnant to prepare for baby, but also birth and just pregnancy in general. So as far as baby is concerned, I only really read one book and that was Baby Wise. It goes through baby sleep related stuff, but also stuff about feeding and how to calm your baby and what to expect. And we used those practices after we had Bodhi and it worked. You know, he was sleeping through the night by around 3 months, which was so good for my health. That was important to me. Some people don't care about that. Some people are planning on co-sleeping or whatever. We weren't. We were planning on using our crib. We were planning on having a schedule. And so Baby Wise really fit our parenting style the best. And it's still the book I recommend to any of my friends. I'll get DMs from friends. How did you get your baby to sleep through the night? How did you get him to sleep in the crib? How did you figure out this? And I always answer, Baby Wise. That's the book. As far as birth and pregnancy, I had a friend give me the Ina May Gaskin book, and I had that recommended to me by some of you and some friends. I did not like that book. I really did not agree or jive with the philosophy behind it. It's not me. It's not my style. And so that was not for me. I would not recommend that, but I do think it's important to go into birth knowing what is birth, how does it happen. That book did have a section on just what is birth, what to expect, but I also got that information from a birth class, and then I mostly also got just information from my doctor. I made sure to see all 4 doctors at my practice when I was pregnant because any 4 of them could have been the one delivering my baby. And so it was important to me to have an established relationship with all of them. And the only other thing I really read to prepare for baby, I really like the blog A Mother Far From Home. She has a lot about just family structure, routines, things that can help you thrive as a mom. I also read so many blogs where it was like, what I wish I knew before giving birth, what I wish I knew before postpartum or the 4th trimester, what I wish I brought to the hospital, just a lot of those kind of blogs, because that was kind of where I found a lot of really good special nuggets, like bring a white noise machine with you to the hospital. That was amazing. I slept amazing at the hospital. I didn't hear the beeping at all, and the baby slept amazing at the hospital. And I also followed women online that were similar to me or having a baby around the same time as me. It was really fun to see, you know, oh, this influencer I follow is going into labor, you know, just getting really excited and seeing other people go through the 4th trimester, you know, the postpartum time. It gave me a lot of information on what to expect. Which does kind of lead me into the topic of medical decisions, and I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but there's so many medical decisions you need to make for yourself and for your baby when you're pregnant. An example is, are you going to get genetic testing if your insurance covers it? We decided, yes, we wanted genetic testing, which is partially how we found out the gender so soon with both of our kids, because if my baby was going to have something like trisomy 13 or some other cystic fibrosis, I don't know, I would want to know beforehand so I could research that, so I could be mentally prepared, so I could have people praying. I also always declined to do telehealth appointments. I always asked to meet my doctor in person because I think it's so important to get your blood pressure checked throughout pregnancy, because preeclampsia is like one of the worst things that can happen when you're pregnant, and it's associated with elevated blood pressure, and blood pressure is not something you can always tell just from physical symptoms. It's good to get monitored. And so I always go in for my in-person appointments, and I always make sure we're looking at everything. If I feel a little strange about something, I'll call the nurse. I have no issues calling my OBGYN practice and asking all sorts of questions. And that was good because the actual reason we went into the hospital and ended up staying and giving birth to Bodhi was because I just called the nurse with a question about what was going on. And she was like, you should come in. And then we ended up giving birth. So going into birth, I looked at all the different options. I watched birth vlogs from all the different types of people, all the different types of mamas. And I decided I did want a hospital birth. I wanted pain relief, potential epidural. I was okay with anything that they needed to do to get the baby out. I wasn't like dead set, it must be my way or the highway. It was just like, I want things to be whatever you need to do to get the baby out safely was kind of like my birth plan. But I did know that I wanted a medicalized birth. I wanted to be in a hospital, and I did want a doctor. They stuck me with a midwife for a long time when I was in labor, and she caused a lot of problems, and I was pretty upset about it when it was all said and done because I had specifically said I didn't want a midwife with me. I wanted a full-blown doctor. And I am really glad that I went that direction because my baby had big shoulders and he got stuck, and it was scary, and my doctor saved his life. She saved my life. I'm forever grateful. But it was just something that it was almost like the Lord prepared me for a very like medical situation with birth. And I also chose to have an epidural because I wanted pain relief. I don't think it's a crime or a sin or wrong for women to want pain relief during birth. I think it's amazing that women do it without pain relief. I am not one of those women. I experienced many hours of labor and transition without pain relief, and I experienced a couple hours with pain relief, and going into this next birth, I am choosing pain relief for the whole time. I hope that everything goes well and I can have it the whole time. And that's just my personal preference. I think there's nothing wrong with it. I know a lot of people try to scare each other about epidurals, and yes, things can go wrong with any medical intervention you choose to do, but for me the risk was worth it, especially because I had a lot of anxiety about birth. Ever since I was like a young child, I was just kind of scared, like, that sounds terrible, painful. And so I knew that having an epidural would just keep me like in the right mental space, and it really did. For the hours that I had it, it really did help. And for this next birth, I'm going with pain relief again. I'm going to be in a hospital again. I really, really liked that environment. I felt very safe. Mind you, however, my husband picked the hospital, and he picked one that had a very low C-section rate. They have a very natural, relaxed philosophy towards birth. You're not going to get that in every hospital. Some hospitals do just induce and crank you out and crank out the C-sections. That's not what my hospital was like. They really valued the mother, a calm birth space. My hospital was actually more crunchy than I was, which I think was great. So I had kind of the best of both worlds there. So when you're in a hospital, you can really get all sorts of different types of philosophies. So try to get to know the philosophy of your clinic, your doctor, where you're going to be giving birth. The outcome of your birth is heavily influenced by the philosophy that the hospital you're going with has. And so we really jived with mine. It was amazing, and we're going to go with them again. It was good. Even though there was complications, it wasn't really their fault. It was just, big shoulders on that baby. So how I take care of my body when I'm pregnant. I do oil from here to my thighs with grapeseed oil, especially as things stretch. After showering, I'm kind of lazy about it this pregnancy. Last pregnancy, I didn't get stretch marks until after I had the baby, you know, my belly button was just like, oh my goodness, that was a lot. Got a little broken up a little bit, but it healed pretty well before I started expanding again in this pregnancy. And so just keeping things really moisturized is important to me. I do keep up exercise, but I'm not a bed rest. I really like walking for exercise. It is so good getting that baby like nice and down there, and also just working out your limbs, giving yourself kind of into that good heart rate zone. It's great for your joints. I really recommend walking. And then I also really like the Paula B Fitness YouTube channel. She makes YouTube videos and workout videos for women who are menopause age and over. So they're very light workouts. And coincidentally, it's perfect for heavily pregnant women or pregnant women. It's just amazing. There's a lot of low impact workouts, and I really enjoyed that. And then I also just continued doing Pilates for legs and arms when I was pregnant, especially with Bodhi, because you know, you can do Pilates for your arms and it doesn't really affect here, but you got to be careful of your abs when you're pregnant. You don't want to cause yourself to have diastasis recti, which is where your abs split apart. I did not get that with Bodhi, but I took care to do like no ab workouts that were unsafe, no ab workouts in general. And I also do wear belly support bands near the end because it takes a lot of pressure off your lower back. And I will also wear like pregnant shapewear because it kind of just keeps everything firm. And I noticed that really helped me feel supported with my last pregnancy. And I also think it helped my skin. And so shapewear is kind of like a hidden secret, but I do like that as well. Finally, just how I mentally prepared for birth and how I mentally was during pregnancy. I talked about this in my announcement video about this pregnancy, but especially those first 12 weeks when you're not sure if you're going to miscarry, you're not sure how things are going to go, you're not sure how your blood work's going to go, you're not sure how birth is going to go. It's kind of a vulnerable time, and it can be overwhelming mentally, and maybe even keep you up at night with worries. And so the way that I deal with that is by just being grateful for every single day I am pregnant. And so every day when I take my prenatal, I say, thank you, Lord, for another day of this pregnancy. And I take my prenatal and I go to bed. I don't really think too much about the next day. I just am grateful for the day. Staying in the moment is really good. And it's kind of funny because you're like planning for all this stuff. You're planning for birth, you're planning the nursery, you're doing all this future planning, but you also kind of have to stay in the moment. And so I would also say, don't let yourself get into spirals of fear and doubt. I have a subchorionic hematoma. It would have been really easy to spiral every day. Don't let yourself go there. Call a friend, call your mom, call your husband, have a little talk with someone, say, hey, I'm spiraling. Can you talk me through this? Or distract yourself if you need to. I think there's nothing wrong with distracting yourself when you're in a mentally high stress season of life. That is why I have been enjoying K-dramas so much in the last month and a half, because I can just turn my brain off. And after momming all day, I don't want to spend my evenings like fretting about my future pregnancy or my future birth or whatever. So I turn on the K-dramas and I'm in zen. And that's an important mindset to be in when you're pregnant. It's important to stay as stress-free as you can so that your baby is not receiving just constant cortisol injections from your stress. We can't always prevent all stress. I do know that, but I do think we can take certain measures to avoid stress. So that does kind of tie into the fact that, yeah, I piece out from my online platform, especially during that first trimester. You guys have noticed that. My first pregnancy, I wasn't on any social media. My second pregnancy, I was on here and there, but kind of staying away. I stay away from the news. I watch TV. I read fiction books. I listen to happy music. I listen to comedy, and I spend a lot of time out in the sun and with friends and family. It's like a great place to be honest. And so just keeping yourself in that good mental space. If you can, don't feel bad taking time off work if you need to, even if you don't have other kids and you're pregnant. Don't feel bad going down to part-time if you need to. I know so many women feel pressured to work 40 hours a week up until the day they deliver, but you don't have to. We talk about with your partner getting time off sooner. It is so nice to just relax, because the newborn stage is tough. It takes everything in you. And so if you go from a high stress situation, giving birth, high stress, to newborn time, high stress, you are going to be a shell of a person at the end of the day. And so for me, I had the luxury as a stay-at-home wife to stay at home throughout my pregnancy. But then even with this, even though I have a young baby, I prioritize rest. We've said no to many social functions. We have not really taken a lot of trips. We have been home, and that has been good for me, good for my health, and good for my mental state. And so I just really encourage you, if you can rest. If you want to summarize my philosophy towards pregnancy, eat for your baby, eat nutritiously, rest as much as you can, and try not to worry, spend a lot of time in gratitude and prayer. It can be so easy to get bogged down into a lot of different voices. There's so many different opinions about pregnancy, and if you do this, then you're a horrible mother. If you don't give birth this way, then you're a bad woman, or you're putting yourself at risk for this and that, and blah, 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 blah. And it can be so stressful. And even I got sucked into that a little bit, especially with Bodhi, that pregnancy. But this time around, I know what I like. I know what works for me. I'm just really shutting out a lot of the voices, the unnecessary chit chat, things that don't really apply to me, or things that I've already made a decision on, and that's okay. My voice is practically gone. I have not talked this much in a while. I hope I have covered some of your questions. I know that I said this would be super comprehensive, but there's just so much that goes into all of this. I will be chatting about these topics more in segments within my vlogs, upcoming vlogs. But in the meantime, please continue to pray for us, growing baby. He's doing well. We're gonna have another ultrasound this coming week to confirm whether or not the hematoma has disappeared. I'm kind of excited. I'm hoping that it has. I will keep you posted. But in the meantime, if you're interested in more of this kind of content, a lot of my videos in the last calendar year have been pregnancy related. You will find a lot of those appealing if you like this one. And in general, don't forget to like the video. It does help other feminine women find our channel. But before I see you next time, I hope that you have a wonderfully blessed and healthy week, my beautiful sisters.